Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much on behalf of Balancing Platforms and ENTSO-E for joining our annual Balancing Platforms Stakeholder Workshop 2023. For everyone's information, the webinar is going to be recorded. The recording will also be available later on on the website at the same place where you found all the materials for the session. Please ask your questions using the questions section down at the bottom of the panel of the GoToWebinar chat. The questions will be read to the presenters at the end of each session scheduled on the agenda, and in addition, we will be preparing question and answers document, which will be also published later on the ENTSO-E website, which you can refer to for all the questions that have been asked in the chat. And now I would like to give the floor to Václav Lanzer, the Murray and Terra Steering Committee Chair, and also Ulf Kasper, who is co-chair of the Balancing Platforms. And they will proceed with presenting further presenters and also the sections of the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nino, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the annual Stakeholder Workshop. As said before, we will start with Murray Stakeholder Workshop part. So that's a little bit of change of the agenda compared to what is shown on the screen. That's because of some organizational issues. I guess it shouldn't be a problem for anyone. So we will start with Murray, then pending on the solving of the technical issues, either we will continue with Picasso and IGCC, or in theory, maybe with Terra. So that's for the agenda. And then, of course, in the end, there will be Q&As. You are kindly asked to write your questions, if you have any, in writing to the chat. And then later on, they will be assessed and answered if possible. If not, we will take them with us and provide them later, or provide the answers later. Yeah, so that's with regards to the agenda. Timing is supposed to be as it is shown here, more or less. And we will follow the flow, basically. So if I may ask you, dear ENTSO-E colleagues, to switch to Murray presentation. Perfect. Thank you. So one more time, welcome at the Murray Stakeholder Workshop, the part dedicated to Murray, manually activated reserve initiative. On today's date, we can perhaps move to the next slide where the agenda of this part is. So we will start shortly with the introduction, basically with a very short introduction what balancing is. And what the Murray is, then operational platform reporting. That will be this part will be given to you by Ulf Kasper, who is the CSP, Common Service Provider of the Murray from Amprion. Then we will shortly go through the accession roadmap, summary and outlook, and as stated in the end, there will be questions and answers. So the LEAP agenda is clear to everyone, and we can get to the slide number 3. Yeah, so this is the introduction for the European balancing platforms and the overview. Just to start from the very scratch, whether it has some imbalance in the inference area. Sorry, someone on the other side itself, we can hear typing and some other sounds. Great, thank you. So as said, sorry, as I started, so if there's an imbalance represented by the red strike or red lightning, that's the imbalance in maybe a trip of the some power plant that's covered the first seconds, basically in first 30 seconds by frequency containment reserve. That one is later on replaced, so-called FCR, frequency containment reserve. That one is replaced by FR, automatically activated frequency restoration reserve, that where the time for recovery is basically 5 minutes for the activation. That's automatic activation, as it's obvious from the name. And later on, the AFRR is replaced by MFRR, the manually activated frequency restoration reserve, where the time for the activation or for providing the full activation power is within 12 and a half minutes for the activation. Yeah, so that's what's MARI about. And then later on, if needed in some countries, regionally, MFR can be replaced by RR, reserve replacement, where the time for activation is 15 minutes. Below on the lower, that's the upper part, FCR represented by the purple, AFRR represented by dark blue, MFR by lighter blue, and then RR by light blue. Below on the lower left lower corner, you can see the operations and the common service providers, meaning the TSOs hosting the solution. So for IGCC and Picasso, that's Transnet BW, and for MARI, it's Amprion, and for Terra, it's a different solution. So I will summarize different balancing processes and products to contain and restore system frequency in case of imbalances are used, as just described. Distributed activation of frequency containment reserve by the whole synchronous area. The whole synchronous area help each other to maintain the balance within 30 seconds. Each LFC area, meaning basically nearly each TSO, is responsible for the restoration of its system balance by activation of AFR, MFR, and RR. That's depending on local implementation. EBGL, Electricity Balancing Guideline, requires implementation of platforms for cross-border activation of these balancing products, mainly IGCC, Picasso, and MARI. Operation of balancing platforms allow the cost-optimal restoration of imbalances for the benefit of the end users. So that's in a nutshell and a very brief introduction what's the balancing is about. Of course, it's much more complicated, but that's the role of TSOs. Yeah, so if we can perhaps move to the next slide. Yeah, so this is specifically about MARI. As stated before, MARI comes from Manually Activated Reserve Initiative, MARI. It has been set up or established already in 2017 to provide basis for European MFR platform, Manually Frequency Restoration Reserve platform. On the right side, you can see the graphical representation of the member states or member TSOs. There are already some TSOs in operation, namely German TSOs Amprion, 50 Hertz, Transnet BW, and TenneT Germany, of CHEPS from Czech Republic, and APG that has connected this year. When it comes to MARI platform itself, dry run of MARI or MFR platform start on July 18, 2022 with the dry run of CHEPS. It was followed by technical go live on the 15th of September the same year. And first TSOs, CHEPS and German TSOs, Amprion, 50 Hertz, Transnet BW, and TenneT Germany joined on 5th of October 2022. APG joined this year, 20th of June. What is needed to be set are the relevant features of MFR. So MFR platform allows for counter activation of MFR balancing energy for economic optimization. Also, MFR balancing energy bits can be activated either for balancing or locally for system constraints purposes. What a specific feature of the MARI is direct and scheduled activation, or scheduled and direct activation actually, to follow the order of the algorithm. What we like to announce is 100% platform availability since go live. There has been any single trip on that. So it's reliable and available for end consumers and of course BSPs to participate. Yeah, so I believe this is it for, say, introduction of the project itself and a little bit of the platform. And then if you can move to slide number 5, where there's a description of how Mari platform is working. I will not read the text on the top, but basically Mari platform consists from data management, so-called Libra data management, and the optimization function or algorithm optimization function, AOF. That optimize the activations and computes the cross-border margin prices. On the diagram below, you can see that the BS that represents TSO model of balancing platforms, where BSPs provides the bits to TSOs. TSOs later on send them after, say, in some cases, the assessment send them to the algorithm together with, not at the same time, but it's also accompanied with the demands of that given TSO, and the demand can be either scheduled or direct. At the same time, the algorithm also check the cross-border capacities. Then those bits, demands, and cross-border capacities are taken into consideration when the establishing the common merit order list, so-called CMO, and algorithm is running for demand for scheduled or demand activation. That
I'm sorry,
results.
sorry, Václav, for interrupting. We do have some audio disturbances with your microphone. Is there any issue, any possibility to? Yes,
Okay,
I think now it's better. It's better now.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was just tension. Can you keep it outside, because I think that was the.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll try. So where did I end it? Yeah, with the algorithm. So algorithm process the demands from the TSOs. Demands can be either elastic or inelastic, and consider, as I said, the cross-border capacities and bits from the common merit order list from the positive or negative direction of the balancing energy. That results in the either if there are capacities cross-border activation or in general inactivation. That's the step 6 and 7, and then the results are communicated from the platform to the TSOs. That provides the signal to BSPs to provide the balancing energy, and then that's that, and then and that's the whole magic, let's say, how that works. It's that simple, if one can say, but of course it's not simple, it's quite complicated. I believe the slides are available online, so in case of question, you can also read it through by yourself, and perhaps provide the questions if you have any. But I believe the written text is self-explanatory enough. Yeah, so that's about the introduction and description how the Mari platform is working, how it works, and I believe we can now move towards the high-level plan of Mari. So this is for you to say what are the plans of the TSOs for the next coming years. The big task for the platform is accession or connection, if you like, of remaining TSOs to Mari platform. For more details, of course, please see the accession roadmap, and that will be also later on discussed. It's need to be said that TSOs are considering ATC sharing implementation. Does it mean that TSOs that are not yet connected but might allow for access to the MFR or to MFR market, if you like, or to the platform, provide the available transfer capacities. So the, say in a hypothetical example, let's say the Spain or REE and Portugal are already connected to Mari, and for example France RTE is not yet connected, so ATC might be provided by, in this hypothetical example, by RTE, and that will allow for connection and exchange of balancing energy in between Spain and currently operating, and Spain and Portugal and currently operating TSOs, meaning German, Austrian, and Czech TSOs. That's for the ATC sharing. Then it's foreseen in the next year, or at least that's expected, energy community countries TSOs accession to MARI platform, either as observers or perhaps even as operational members. But that's the expectation. In year 25, there will be also common service provider redesignation in MARI. Yeah, early, or actually by the end of this year and early next year, the TSOs or the platform itself is planning to migrate the communication to physical communication network, thus implemented. That's the physical communication network owned and operated by TSOs, allowing for higher security, even higher security and higher reliability. By the end of the year, there'll be in place MARI platform version 6, allowing some further improvements that are motivated by the lessons learned from the operation. I would say that's mainly the thing. And then, of course, it's expected as more TSOs will connect further development of MARI platform in coming years. That's expected. However, now it's not foreseen, like it's not approved, or there are no specific change requests on the table. Also, the TSOs are considering and working on data extraction tool, meaning the development and implementation that will allow easier data extraction from the platform for the use and the work with some data that will be available. So that's about a high-level plan. What is ahead of us, I will one more time repeat that the biggest task is the accession of remaining TSOs, either from EU or perhaps even from energy community countries, to the MARI platform in the coming years to come. Yeah. So I believe that's all from the introductory part, and I will leave the floor to Ulf for the operational part.
Okay, thanks a lot, Václav. And dear sirs and madams, I may take you now through the operational reporting of the MARI balancing platforms. So basically what we will try to introduce to you, if we go for the next slide, is the overview on the development in the recent months. So colleagues from ENTSO-E, can you, there it is, thanks, it's just a bit delayed on the screen. So we have chosen here the reporting period of Q1 to Q3 of this year. So giving you an overview of basically 9 months of operation. Please keep in mind that the colleagues of APG, so Austria, has only joined the platform mid-June this year, as Václav has already introduced. So you will see on the following slides lower values for Austria, so to say, but this is just the fact, as Austria has not been connected to MARI for the entire year, as Czechia and Germany have been. And we want to feature here on 4 analysis on the next slides. The first one focuses on the MFR requested and activated via MARI. So basically it tries to answer the question which country requests and which country activates actually MFR. Later on, we will also have a slide on the MFR demand per country, especially there focusing on direct and scheduled activations. As you might recall from previous workshops, MARI features, or MFR features, both activation types, both the direct one as the scheduled one. And of course, also quite interested in is pricing results. So there we have an overview. It comes along with box plots, which will also possible, hopefully for you, to see what are more the outliers and what are the normal prices, so to say. I think one key message here will be that we, of course, similar to Picasso, and the colleagues will report on this later on, we do have price incidents, so price above the level of 7,500 euros per megawatt hour. But due to the nature of the MFR product, so being scheduled activated and especially much more rarely activated than AFR, these price incidents have the tendency to occur less often in MFR. You will also see this on the slide. Yeah, and last but not least, we will also have an analysis regarding the economic surplus generated by MARI. So actually, why do we do the platforms? Due to the fact that also from economic theory, it's expected that there will be economic benefits resulting from procuring MFR or activating MFR jointly. Basically, these benefits are both on the consumer and of the producer side. This is also later on what can be seen in the results. You will also see there that due to the fact that we have rare activations in comparison to Picasso, that of course also the economic benefits by nature are lower, but they are, so to say, in the expected range. I will come back to this later on. Having this said, I suggest we switch for the next slide. Thanks a lot. This is the MFR requested and activated via MARI. You see that the slide is basically split in an upper and a lower part. The upper parts refers to the positive MFR energy activated, values in megawatt hours, while the lower part refers to the negative MFR or downward MFR activated, again the values in megawatt hours. You see the different countries in the three rows, so to say. Again, keep in mind Q1 to Q3. This is where Austria has lower values. And by color, we make a distinction between the requested demand, so actually what was posted to the platform, this is in blue, to the actual satisfied demand, so what was covered by the platform, this is in red, and the actual activated bids, which is in yellow. And the activated bids, if it's higher than the actually requested demand, then obviously the country has exported. If it's lower, the country obviously has imported. You have this for different directions, and you see one more feature which at the moment only occurs in Czechia, which is unsatisfied price elastic demand. I think also something we have shared in previous workshops. If a country has other tools available to cover local imbalances, it's allowed for the TSO, of course, subject to regulatory approval, to place a price elastic demand for MFR on the platform. And this is what the Czech colleagues have done, and we provide here both information. You see the satisfied demand and the actual demand which would have been there but was not satisfied due to the fact that it was price elastic and prices didn't match with the prices of the bids didn't match with the prices of demand. What can we, as an overall conclusion, get from this slide? You see it on the lower part. Maybe the obvious one is, as I already told you, the price elastic demand for the moment is only applied by CEPS, so it's clear that it will not occur for Austria and Germany. Of course, other TSOs in the future may also apply this based on regulatory approval. And if we more focus now on Czechia and Germany, as the values are very, very comparable because both countries have been connected to MARI for the entire year, you see that Czechia has the tendency to activate more negative MFR and Germany more positive MFR and vice versa, which is quite interesting. And you see that Germany has the tendency here have less activated bits than their demand, so they tend to import, while exports either provided by Austria in the recent month and to some extent, but the values match there quite well, also to parts from Czechia. Having that said, I suggest we go for the next slide. Thanks a lot. This now focuses more on the MFR demands, and you see the slide gets a bit more complex, but no worries, I take you through. So again, the first part you already know. The upper one is for the positive MFR, and the lower part is for the negative MFR. However, we also have a split between left and right, and the left-hand side is about the demand in megawatt hours. This is actually what you expect to match it with the bit volumes to be placed. But on the right-hand side, we also have plotted the number of activations. So just really the amount. Why that? Because it can be expected that TSOs have different use cases for MFR. So basically, some post demands more often or less often. And this is what you also basically see on the slide. And moreover, we make here a distinction by color between the inelastic scheduled activation demands, which is in blue, the elastic, price elastic scheduled activation demands, which is in red, and the direct activation demands. These are always by the definition price inelastic, and they are in yellow. And what do you see here? Basically, you see some parts you already know from the last slide, so that the demand for positive MFR is higher in Germany, while the demand for negative MFR is higher in Czechia. But you can also see that there are different approaches of either posting inelastic or elastic demands to the platform. All countries so far have a preference of applying scheduled activation. You can see this both in the amount of bits as well as in the volume of bits, that always either the red or the blue bars are far higher than the direct activation demands. However, what you can see on the other hand is that there is some difference between the volumes of the direct activations, especially in the negative direction, where in Czechia there's a tendency to post more direct activation negative than in Germany or Austria. You can also see something else on the slide, which is not directly but indirectly visible, which is that the amounts of activation, so volume-wise, left-hand side of the slide, are rather low in comparison to the overall volumes of the common merit order list. This is what we also call the CMOL, so common merit order list. This is actually one of the reasons for why we have a limited amount of price incidence, and therefore, this is to be kept in mind when we talk later on about the prices. Regarding the ratio between elastic and inelastic demand, I already highlighted it too. There are differences between the countries, but this again subject also to the local approvals. We can now continue with the next slide, please. Thanks a lot. This is the overview on prices. It basically is a box plot, both for the upward direction here on the left-hand side now to make it a bit easier to read, and on the right-hand slide for the downward activations of MFR. And we have plotted or analyzed here the cross-border marginal price, which is named as CBMP, in euros per megawatt hour, of course. And what you can see over the entire month of the first 3 quarters is that we have rather interesting development, because we see that the prices in general, so within the boxes, are usually for positive MFR in a range of below or around 1,000 euros per megawatt hours. And on the other hand, you can see that the outliners usually go above this, but hardly any outliner. I have to admit here it is also due to the chosen plotting, goes above the 4,000 or 6,000 euros per megawatt hour. For the negative MFR, so we look at the right-hand side, please note that the zero line is not at the very top of the graph, but one below, and you can see there that we have prices with a bit smaller range, and outliers are still there, but less extensive as for the positive MFR. What we can derive from this is that the majority of the activations are rather small prices, leading to low prices at least on average. Keep in mind, these are the prices for the actual activations. So we're not referring to the prices of the bits, but really to the prices of the bits which have been activated. So the probability of high prices to occur is rather low on MFR due to the different amount of activations. And so the good news here basically is that in Mari, no price incident, so no price above 7,500 euros per megawatt hour, has occurred since July the 7th of this year. There is also some tendency in the prices, of course. So prices for upward MFR have decreased slightly from January until April, and have later on remained rather constant. You can, of course, also attribute this a bit to seasonalities with the winter fading out. And on the other hand, the downward prices have been rather constant in 2023. However, we have high prices in March and April. For now, we tend to attribute this as an exception. There might be some correlation with increased solar feed-in during these periods of time, which is a bit hard to forecast, but I think it's too premature to draw a conclusion there. I would actually say this is something we might want to have a look at in the next year to get some better conclusions, some better feelings on that. Concluding this slide, I suggest we move forward to the next one. And this is now the economic surplus slide. Again, I have to repeat the disclaimer. Please keep in mind the values for Austria by definition have to be smaller here because they're only connected by mid-June of 2023. Anyhow, what you can see here is a comparison, basically, because we are not going for the social welfare itself, but to the economic surplus, so the add-on in the social welfare, which is generated by the fact that we can now exchange MFR when it's activated. So basically, behind this graph, there are two different simulations. The first one is actually not a simulation, it's the actual market result. So how has MFR been activated? And the second one, this is now the simulation, is how would MFR have been activated if we would not have had Mari in place? So basically, you have market results then, and then you can make a comparison, usually not only showing the overall impact on the economic surplus, but also on consumer rent, producer rent, congestion rent, and all these things. But the overall value, the one which is worth looking at, because this is the driving factor, so to say, is the economic surplus, and this is what is provided by this graph. You see the economic surplus per month, and of course also per country. These are the three left parts on the slide, and on the right hand side you see the total economic surplus. We have chosen different color to give you an overview of over the different months. And again, I know I repeat myself, that there cannot be any bars for Austria before they are connected. This is why the Austrian part of the economic surplus is a bit smaller. But you also see other things here. So if you compare or look at Czechia and Germany now more specifically, you can see that especially we have managed to generate economic surpluses in months with high prices. So you see that especially the bar of April is rather high, because in such a situation where we had the need to activate and also achieved or ended up with higher prices, we also ended up in a situation where the exchange on the platform was really beneficial for the entire community, generating the economic surplus here. What's also worth noting is that since Austria joined us, they have considerable contribution to the economic surplus. So basically it's good that they are there, and we of course hope that this will even increase with other TSOs joining next year. The last part on the graph which I want to mention is that you have to also keep in mind when interpreting this, that of course the activation probability of MFR is rather low. So you see also that in February there was hardly any economic surplus, also not in Czechia and Germany generated by Mari. Why? Because in February we have had very limited amounts of MFR activations, and of course without activations no economic surplus. So that's also basically intentionally. Looking at the overall values, you can see here that the economic surplus, if we do not consider unsatisfied demand, so the demand posted in Czechia, which was later on covered by other means, and to our understanding this is the correct way to do it, the economic surplus sums up to 7.5 million euros in this period of 9 months. We could, this is not displayed here, but for full visibility of the results, we could also, of course, have some more view on, or we could also consider the unsatisfied demand. This would then increase the economic surplus by about 1 million euro in the same period in time. Basically, that is our overview on the economic surplus. Just to give you one range, because you will similar figures for Picasso later on, there is a value of thumb that the activation probability of MFR is about 10 times lower than for AFR, and consequently the economic surplus should also be in a range. Again, please keep in mind value of thumb should be 10 times lower, which is actually met by these results. So results are, as I already said, in the expected range. I think this concludes my part of the presentation. Thank you for your attention, and Václav, I may hand over to you again.
Thank you. Hopefully you will hear me now better, or yeah. Okay, great. Thank you for confirmation. So now we are moving towards the accession roadmap. Yeah, so on the next slide, you can see also the publicly available document from October 23. that represents the information provided to the project by the TSOs about their readiness and preparation towards the accession. The accession is planned in accordance with the following accession map, later on also shown graphically represented. This accession roadmap is for informative purposes only, and it does not in any case represent a firm binding or definitive position of MARI on the content. It's the TSO thing or responsibility. The content is subject to the change as the implementation progresses and the new information becomes available to the accessing TSOs. In particular, the feasibility of the present accession roadmap may depend on final detailed accession planning and possible operational and/or technical constraints that would result in maximum number of parallel accessions. As stated, the last update was in October 2023, and we expect the project expect the update of the accession roadmap in first semester of the year 24, and of course then follow perhaps in the second half of the year as well. Yeah, I believe the chart is self-explanatory. You can either find it out in this presentation or on the ENTSO-E web page dedicated to MARI platform as well. Yeah, if you can move to the next slide, perhaps. This is the graphical representation of previously shown chart. So as you can see, Germany, Czechia, and Austria are member TSOs operational or in operation. Then there are some members that are non-operational yet. Some other TSOs who are observer. Different TSO that is technically ready to access but not being connected, and TSOs that foreseen connection in 2024 in the next year. This is, well, as I said, the graphical representation. I believe we can move to the actually the last part and or second to the last part, summary and outlook. So if you can go to the next slide, number 17, please. Yes. So as said in the introduction, MARI Go Live took place in 2022 with CHEPS and German TSOs accessed to MFR platform. In this year, APG joined it, as was clear from the operational results presented by Ulf. Then regarding the operation platform reporting, MFR requested and activated via MARI. Czechia activates more negative than positive MFR, and Germany vice versa. For MFR demand per country, amount of elastic demand and ratio between direct activation DA and scheduled activation SA varies per country. The prices of MFR are, so to say, moderate, and it's good to say there were no price incidents since 7th of July 2023. And I will repeat one more time, the MARI economic surplus, 7.4 million euros, without pricing the unsatisfied demand to 8.4 million euros if we consider it for the 9 months of this year. As Ulf said, it's as a rule of thumb, really, it's 10 times lower, roughly, than the AFRR economic surplus. In regards to accession roadmap, a significant number of TSOs will join to MFR in 2024, which is considered as the biggest challenge for the project. Yeah. Having said that, I believe we got to the Q&As part. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much for your presentations, Ulf and Václav. We did receive a few questions, so I'm just going to go through them. The couple first questions were really administrative in nature, so I replied to them already that indeed we are being recorded and presentations are already available on the website, and I provided the link. And the content question, first one we received was from a Georgian TSO who is saying that they are interested in the procedures to become observer in balancing product platforms. What are the restrictions for example, if they are not connected to the EU directly?
I may start. I believe this is also agenda of energy communities, countries, organization. And notably, I guess it's needed to be said that respective legislation needs to be implemented, or at least it has to be start to be implemented, meaning EBGL and SOGL guidelines, system operation guidelines and electricity balancing guidelines. Those two are must-have conditions to be started, to my knowledge, as of now. And then please get in touch with Energy Community Countries Secretariat. They should be able to provide you with more information and guide you through the process. Yeah, so I hope, Ulf, would you add anything on that?
Oh, perfectly fine from my side. So of course we welcome if other TSOs want to join the cooperation, because it's intended to get bigger, but indeed to have a streamlined process here, it's organized via the Energy Community Country Secretariat. So please refer there, but no worries, we will be there for you.
And the second part of that question was more practical. Is the application form available? Who is the contact person, and so on? But I guess it also comes from the answer to the previous question. There is a website of ENTSO-E, sorry, not ENTSO-E, but Secretariat of Energy Community Countries, which has the contact details, I'm sure. But we will also, as we said, be providing question and answers document where we also mentioned all this. Okay, the next one is if one TSO use the capacities from another area and this area needs now the volumes themselves, will the cost locally allocated or on first come, first serve for the product price for the TSOs? The question is coming from Hartmut Fenn. If you need clarifications further, we could also ask maybe Hartmut to clarify.
Maybe I give it a try, and then we see if we need some clarification. So if we are within the same balancing process, so we are only talking about AFR, for instance, now, then of course who uses the capacity, the cross-zonal capacity in the end, is the result from the activation optimization function, so of the optimization. So the capacity is used to exchange the most economic bid for the overall optimization. It's of course a different story if we go now for between the different balancing processes, so MFR and AFR, because for MFR we have a longer lead time, so this request has to be there, or will be there first always, because it's requesting an activation in 15 minutes or for the next beginning of the next quarter hour, while an AFR activation is taking place basically instantaneously, more or less, depending of the optimization cycle. And so of course in this context, for now, an MFR activation takes precedence, so to say, so it goes first. You have to give me a heads up if your question more refers to the ATC sharing part, or if this already answers your question.
If you would raise your hand, Hartmut, we will be able to unmute you so that you can clarify if you're still with us online. Okay, I don't see reaction for now, so I guess we could proceed to the next question, and we also can specify further in writing later on. So the next question comes from Casper de Munk, and the question is, will the data extraction tool also be available for market parties for transparency purposes?
At least from the beginning, or at the beginning, the data extraction tool is meant to be used only by TSOs, as there are perhaps some information perhaps sensitive to the market that might not be, well, to answer it at the beginning, it is not foreseen, and not all necessary information are provided to the transparency platform already. The data extraction tool allows for, say, for easier operational reporting for TSOs, or that's the intention as of now.
Okay, thank you.
I hope this clarified.
So then can we go to next question then? Yeah. The next question is, what was the economic surplus or loss in February?
I have to look it up. It was there, but it was very low, so low that you don't see it. If it's really a valid and relevant question, we post this later on. Sorry, I would have to dive into an Excel file. Maybe not,
Okay,
nothing to do in the recorded session.
We will take a look at the and provide response in the Q&A document. Then question comes from Torsten Kowalski. The question is, can you translate this, please? Who wins, who loses?
Okay.
We hope everyone wins.
So economic surplus means or implies in the end actually everybody or the whole society is on the winning side. I assume the underlying question is, can the economic surplus be divided into consumer rent, producer rent, congestion rent, and all these things? This can be done, but it will be less easy to understand. Maybe we more take this for the next stakeholder workshop, when we need some more slides for introduction to make it understandable. So nothing for the Q&A session, I would suggest, but actually something we take with us for the next stakeholder workshop to have some more in-depth analysis of the economic surplus.
Thank you, Ulf. The next question is about ATCs. Could you have a bit more light on the checking of the available cross-border capacity? Do you use bilateral ATC values? Which ATCs? After, before intraday allocation? How do you define the available cross-border capacity between distant TSOs and as a result of chain of ATCs? The question is coming from Christoph Almasi.
So far, we are looking at the remaining available cross-zonal capacity after the intraday market. So we are really with those capacities who are left over. Of course, but this is a more technical thing, these ATCs, remaining ATCs, are provided by all the participating TSOs, not by a dedicated one, but by all. What we have in mind, but this is, I think, all according to the guideline electricity balancing, is that there will be processes to update the cross-zonal capacity, all of course in line with the core project and so on, to make sure that at some point in time we might even be able to have some further cross-zonal capacity at hand.
Okay, thank you. We have a few more questions. We have very active audience today. Thank you very much. So where are the activation volumes and prices published? Is this similar to Picasso? Question from Jean-Paul Harmon.
The values are published on the transparency platform, so we can provide in the Q&A session a link there if it's considered being helpful.
Thank you. And next one, again from Torsten Kowalski, what is the current status of Switzerland accession?
Yeah, technically, Switzerland is ready to access the platform, so we mark them as technically ready. However, there's of course the ongoing discussion between the European Commission and Switzerland regarding some issues, and to our understanding, this has to be sorted out before we can see some update on the accession status.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from Mark Ballo. What is the share of MFRR demand put by the TSOs handled by the ENTSO-E platform versus national balancing? Is there a minimum national core share?
A core share for MFR being activated locally is not there to my understanding. I'm not sure if the question is more referring to a core share for MFR balancing capacity. There might be a core share, but it's actually not relevant for the balancing platforms, because the balancing platforms refer to balancing energy, not to balancing capacity.
Okay, thank you. Then we have a question from Paul Nebats. Is there a table of abbreviations used or glossary of some sort within the context of this presentation, or even ENTSO-E published information in general?
We have had one, and maybe we should reinsert it. Sorry if it's not there.
I believe the abbreviations are also explained throughout the presentation. As far as I remember what I said, usually when I use some abbreviation, there was a previously used text that could lead to that.
And I can also supplement that if you could refer to market report, the balancing report that we publish annually, there is a section on balancing platforms there, and the abbreviations explained there as well. It's available on the website as well, the reports.
But it's something for time to have a last slide with the abbreviations one more time. Thank you.
Thank you. Then we have a question from Mehmet Kara. Can a non-energy community country TSO, for example, TS from Turkey, apply for access to balancing platforms? Is there a legal blocking requirement? So similar question to Georgian TSO, I guess.
I feel not competent to answer this question. Sorry, so sorry for that. That one we definitely have to take with us.
Perfect, thank you. We have a question how to raise a hand. Well, as an attendee, you should be able to see if you open the panel or go to webinar panel, you should be able to find there the raising hand sign. And then I will be able to see it and then unmute you in that case. So we have next question from Dario Nixart. Don't you see in the future the risk of having competition between European common balancing markets as MARI and domestic balancing markets such as national MFRRs, as they won't be completely substituted by the European ones?
We usually foresee, at least with regards to standard products, that these markets are indeed completely aligned. And for instance, for Germany, this is actually currently the case. We don't have a national MFR procurement. You might have some specific, sorry, I have an incoming call, which I have to quit. We do have if there are national specificities, usually these products are in a way that they cannot really be compared with European standard products. So we don't foresee a big competition there, but I'm quite sure that NRAs will monitor that.
Okay, thank you. Another question from Hartmut Fan. A TSO activate a bid for 50 euros from another area. Now this area activate a bid, and this is by 75 euros. Do get the local at the cost of 50 euros or need to take the 75 euro cost for their volume needed? Hartmut, I hope you found a way how to raise a hand, because I think maybe some clarification would be needed for that. Or maybe I will try and find you in the list of the participants while I'm reading the next question, and we come back to your question. So the next question is from Michal Hatle from Czech Republic. How the cross-border transport capacities are managed? Do these pose any serious limitation to MARI impact, or are these abundant enough?
At the moment for MARI, we do not see a significant limitation by cross-zonal capacities. Of course, the way how cross-zonal capacities are managed will change in the future. On the one hand, due to the potential upcoming proposals we already mentioned, as well as due to the fact that we will also implement some cross-border capacity management IT solution, which will facilitate the process there, but it's more on the TSO side to make some updates of the capacity easier.
Thank you. Hartmut, I will unmute you now. If you could maybe verbally share your example, but just a quick reminder, we have 4 minutes left for the MARI topic. So you should be able to unmute yourself now. Yeah.
Perfect. Hello. Fast. If you have in one area a problem, so you activate FFR, and the price is 50 euros for the bit. And a minute later, the local TSO also needs volume, so he needs now to activate volumes out of his area, which was used by the other TSO. Who gets the price? Is it 50 euros for the first come, first serve? So the TSO who has activated first gets a cheaper price, and then the local gets a higher price, like it is by exchange. When you buy something, you get that when you come and buy the bit. Or is it locally allocated first and then shared only when there are volumes left, or when the price is then given to it? How is the process on the platform for the TSOs?
I think we have now to distinguish if it's a scheduled or a direct activation. If these activations are scheduled activations, it's actually marginal pricing very similar to the day-ahead power exchange. So then actually everybody would have the same price. But in the example you refer, I could assume, so I'm interpreting now, that it's actually the second activation is a direct activation, so there is some activation already in place with all these remuneration things I just explained, and then a second direct activation comes in because it's of urgent need. And then the pricing rules foresee that the second activation has a separate pricing approach. You might even activate more than one bit, and the resulting, again, marginal pricing is at least as high as the price for the scheduled activation.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Thank you. So we do have a few other questions remaining. I don't know if we would like to take 5 minutes from the next session time to address them, or should we address them in writing then?
I wouldn't like to take time from my colleagues, so I'm afraid we'll have to respond to them in writings.
Okay, if we have remaining time in the end of the session, maybe we can also come back.
We will still
come
be
back to those.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Václav and Ulf, for your presentation of MARI, and I would like now to invite Picasso and IGCC presenters, and the lead presenter will be Anna Camila Scherer, who is the chair for the MARI and IGCC and Picasso. And please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, great. I'm sorry, I'm not able, unfortunately, to turn on my camera, as today we faced some technical issues that for me continues at least in this visual part, but hopefully audio is fine and I can start to present you the Picasso and IGCC recent developments. My name is Anna Scher. I am the Picasso and IGCC steering committee chair since 1st of October. And I think that we can start now with the agenda that we have prepared for today's workshop. We can go to the next slide. I will inform you about the project recent developments, so planning and progress on the project. Also, this will include the roadmaps for Picasso. Then one of my colleagues from Picasso project, Mikołaj Vesai from Svenska Kraftnät, he will present you the business process and the interlinks between Picasso project and IGCC project. And then Simon Rempis from Transnet BW will present to you the results of the first operational year in line with our key performance indicators, which we are obliged to develop every year in line with implementation framework. And then we will finalize the presentation with Q&A session for both projects. So please, we can start now with the next slide. Thank you. The Picasso project, which is the platform for the international coordination of automated frequency restoration and stable system operation, was already established in 2017, and it was endorsed as an implementation project for the European AFRR platform in line with the electricity balancing guideline. Currently, we have 26 TSOs from 23 countries that have joined the project. 4 of them, they are together with ENTSO-E, they are the observers. This will soon change as 3 of those TSOs, which is the Baltic TSOs, will become the TSO members at the beginning of 2024. As you can see at this graphical representation, you can see that in dark green we have all operational currently TSOs, which is Austrian APG, 4 German TSOs, JEPS, that was actually the first operational member, and from this year, from the 19th of July, we have a new operational member, which is Italian TSO Terna. For the 2024, of course, the accession of the most of TSOs is planned in line with EBGL decision, and some of the TSOs already informed us that for them year 2026 will be the year that they would like to finalize their accession process. So more on that. So what will happen in 2024? I will present you with the roadmap. But now I would also like to mention that the Picasso optimizer had performed more than 11 million market clearings since go live, with 100% of the availability. Also, the Picasso IT solution is used for the International Grid Control Cooperation, so IGCC project, which is closely interacting with Picasso optimization to maximize the economic surplus while ensuring that the netting potential of all IGCC TSOs is used, and these interlinks between the projects we will also present you today later during this presentation. And we can go now to the next slide. Yeah, and here we, as Mari colleagues already presented, we also would like to show you the accession roadmap for Picasso. This is the roadmap that we are publishing twice per year. This is publicly available. You can see the link under the accession roadmap, which we are publishing at the ENTSO-E website. The last roadmap is from 25th of October. It is presented on the slide. We made some improvements in this roadmap, and now we put the TSOs in the order of the expected accession. In green, you have those TSOs that they have already connected, and the next TSOs in this order that you can see here will gradually join the platform. My colleagues from Mari, they already said this, but this is also very important for us to underline that Picasso project does not in any case take the responsibility of the information that are provided by the individual TSOs, and that this roadmap does not represent a firm binding or definite position of Picasso project on the content. Also, you can see the footnotes that are given under the roadmap, which contains the information, like more detailed information of several TSOs that wanted to complement on the information regarding their accession. So it is also the information that was obtained by us from the relevant TSOs, and is just simply presented here. We can go to the next slide. Yeah, and here we have what we call the integrated project plan review, and this is simply the outlook of the main activities of the project for the next year, including the last quarter of 2023. For the accessions in 2023, we already finalized that. It was only Terna that had joined Picasso in the operational mode, but for the first quarter of 2024, we already have foreseen the accession of Romanian Transelectrica. Also, for the activities that are important for the public, and we would like to share it with you, is the monitoring on some particular tasks we have as a project, and one of them is the update of the implementation framework via the amendments and also relevant methodologies. So currently there is a discussion on the pricing methodology. I think that many of you is aware of this, and this methodology, the changes, the potential changes to this methodology will impact also the shape of the AFRR implementation framework, what requires the amendments. So this is the current status for the next quarters. We can go to the next slide, where we have the remaining quarters of the years 2024. As you can see, as the legal deadline for the accession is the mid of July 2024, we have most of the accessions focusing in quarter 2 and quarter 3. Some of them, they are put in blocks, like you can see in May and June, and then also in the mid of July and August. So the workload is really high, and this is the most challenging part of the year 2004 that we will have a look at. And this is the current planning. So hopefully what you could see on the roadmap is more visible in this timeline, and this is the current assumption. Regarding the tasks for the project, we have, except of the continuation of the AFRR IF amendments, which is rather extent process, we also need to open the discussion on the control demand model. We need to evaluate it in line with our obligations from the implementation framework, and also there will be the change in the full activation time for 5 minutes in the standard products for AFRR. Also, we have discussed, due to maybe it was already raised here today, the accessions of the energy community countries. We will have to look at the IGCC project that because all the countries who were obliged to join in line with EBGL, they already did. The roadmap was not foreseen for this project, but now the situations, the conditions have changed, and we will also most probably start to publish the IGCC roadmap. Moreover, for other project tasks, we have the reporting in line with Article 13 of the implementation framework. And for the next year, we are planning, of course, to prepare this report. This report will be published this year for the first operational year, most probably till the end of this year. Many of the outcomes of this report you will be able to see still today, and my colleague Simon Rempis, he will present it at the end of this presentation. We can go to the next slide. Yeah. And here are some information on IGCC project. I already mentioned a few, that all the EB regulation requests that the TSOs they have connected to IGCC. We have new observers that so far they are members there, but they are not non-operational. This is the Baltic TSOs and the new observers in the south of Europe. This year there was a new member, ENTSO, that had joined the project in March, and most probably, as I said, this project will have to prepare for the connection of energy community countries. So I think this is the main challenge currently in terms of planning for IGCC. And I think that this would be everything for this part of presentation. We can go to the next part, which is the business process and the interlinks between Picasso and IGCC project. And I will ask my colleague, Mikael.
Yes, good morning.
To present this part. Thank you.
Thank you. So Mikael Wine from the Swedish TSO Svenska Kraftnät. I will do a brief recap on the high-level business processes and the platform functionality of both Picasso and IGCC. The following slides, they have been presented before in more detail in previous stakeholder workshops. So the aim here is to remind about some concepts to rather to support the following topic on KPI reporting. I will first present some common features and the interaction between Picasso and IGCC, and then some more details on Picasso. Next slide, please. Okay, so you may then recognize this slide that has been presented before. So both Picasso and IGCC, they optimize the activation of AFRR, and some optimization features are common, as you see from the color scheme, while others are specific to each platform. So IGCC proportionally distributes the netting of imbalances or the AFRR demand, while the remaining local demand is activated in the local merit order lists. Picasso, on the other hand, also optimizes the selection of AFRR bids for activation across all participating TSOs and using the bids in the common merit order list. We can take the next slide, please. And to say something about the actual optimization steps, we can see that in the top of the picture here, we can see that the starting point for both Picasso and IGCC is the local A4R demand. So following the guide here, the step 1 is optimization for Picasso TSOs that are also participating in IGCC. And then in the second step, there is the netting for IGCC only participants. And in the third step, we have the rest of the Picasso participants who only use Picasso. And you can read more about this afterwards, I think, also here and in the next slide. We can go to the next slide, please. The rationale is basically to utilize the transmission capacity, the available transmission capacity in a reasonable way. And this reference slide is also mostly for later reading. So you can see the background articles in the network codes and so on. So IGCC has a netting process. There is no cross-border exchange of activated FRR. Picasso has cross-border A4R activation process. There is a maximization of social welfare. We will have a slide on that in the KPI section, I think. And the activation of A4R is according to this common merit order list. Okay, next slide, please. And this is also a familiar slide, I think. It's similar to the one presented for Mari. It will give you some more details on the Picasso platform. So here you can see this high-level information flow. And you can see the Picasso platform side, denoted A4R platform here, and the local implementation where the TSOs and their BSPs are. And you can also see that there are real-time signals and non-real-time signals, orange and blue. And some steps, of course, maybe are more directly relevant to external stakeholders. So it's 1, 6, 7, and 9. But of course, it's good to have the complete picture here. So we could just very briefly, I think, sorry, following the arrows, we could look at what happens where one, we receive the bids from the BSPs, and the TSOs forward them to the platform. And the TSOs then, in step 3 here, we have some real-time information, 3, 4, 5, regarding the cross-border capacity limits. And then the A4R demand from each TSO. And then the AOF clears the market and communicates the results in step 5. So there you can see the A4R interchange. It's a corrected A4R demand, if you will. And that is the input for the TSO to send an A4R request to the BSPs in step 6. After the operational phase, we publish the data, the market results in step 7, and there is a TSO settlement process and the TSO BSP settlement process. So that's the description here. Next slide, please. Okay. So in Picasso, the marginal price represents the highest selected bid within a specified area. And the Picasso AF computes a balancing energy price per LFC area and optimization cycle. So 1 price per 4 second. The cross-border marginal price is set per uncongested area, as you can see in the lower part of the picture. I think it's a fairly familiar concept. When the border is congested, there will be a price split. We can go to the next slide. So here is, well, an even more detailed example, maybe starting from the control demand of an AT. So we have the objective as described here of the frequency restoration process to regulate the LFC input to 0. You can see that in the left-hand part of the orange box. So basically, we have the control demand calculated from the AOF and the delivered A4R, the sum of that. And the control demand that represents the calculation of the imbalance before any A4R activation. So you could perhaps think of it as a ACE open loop, if you know that concept, plus the MFR activation. And furthermore, the Picasso AOF determines the AFR exchange based on this control demand without any physical restrictions, etc. So it's rather digital. We can take the next slide. And as a result of this, the TSO settlement is also based on, or it follows, the Picasso AF, while the TSO BSP settlement is more based on actual volumes, though the accepted volumes. And these originate from the control request, which you can see between the BSP activation box and the BSP boxes. And there are some more details on accepted volumes and so on the next slide. So next slide, please. This is actually the last slide in this section. So here you can see a typical selection by the AOF. So that's the green quadratic curve, rather digital, as said. So that represents the selection and the TSO settlement. But the TSO request to the BSPs, that will be ramped to some extent. So we're considering ramping constraint stability and so on. And the BSPs represented by the blue lines and the blue shaded areas, that they activate their resources within the full activation time. So there is some discrepancy here, some delay, some missing. But in general, you can see the accepted volumes that are within basically the allowed full activation time, also following the period of activation from the AOF. So there is some volume that you will also be accepted, but then if the deactivation, for example, is too slow, that will not be accepted. So this was a short, quick recap to give you some concepts ready for the next section, and that was all for me.
Thank you, Mikael. Simon, we cannot hear you. You have to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So thank you, Mikael. I will take over from here and lead you through the KPI reporting section of today's presentation. My name is Simon Rempis. You might know me from previous stakeholder workshops. If not, well, I'm working for Transit BW. That is the CSP, or common service provider, for the Picasso platform. So we're responsible for the development and operation of the Picasso platform. Today, I'm going to present the first key performance indicators of the Picasso platform to you, which we've gathered during the first operational year of the Picasso platform. So you might go to the first slide, or to the next slide, in which I'd like to present you some backgrounds of this KPI reporting, which we as TSO, or as Picasso participating TSO, are performing according to the AFR implementation framework. The key performance indicator that we are publishing are based on operational data, and shortly after this call, ideally in December this year or January next year, we are going to publish these the results, or the key performance indicators, for the first operational year of the Picasso platform. A summary of these results will be presented in today's workshop. The presentation will also contain some information on the operation of the impedance netting platform, or the IGCC. There's no legal requirement to publicly report on the operation and the key performance indicators of the IGCC. However, TSOs have decided to voluntarily publish some operational facts and performance indicators on the ENTSO-E website. You'll find them in the quarterly so-called social welfare reports. As they are closely related to the Picasso operational results, a summary of these results will also be shown in today's presentation. Before going to the numbers, I'd like to also provide some general remarks. the reporting obligations according to the implementation framework also require TSOs to inform on statistics on bits that were declared as unavailable. This is not included in this year's report, since the TSOs that have participated in the first operational year of the Picasso platform, which are basically the TSOs from Austria, Germany, and the Czech Republic, do not use procedures to set bits or declare bits as unavailable after their initial submission to the Picasso platform. For that reason, this is not included. Also, the results of the annual stakeholder workshop survey that has been performed by ENTSO-E are not subject of today's workshop. However, the summary has already presented in a previous stakeholder workshop. It was the recent EBSG meeting. There's a typo here on the slide, and are also available on the ENTSO-E website. But now let's actually get to the numbers. So can you please switch to the next slide? The first key performance indicator here provides some information on the requested and available volume of balancing energy. As already said, all of these results are covering the first full operational year of the Picasso platform, in which only the TSOs from Czechia, Austria, and Germany have participated. In the meantime, Italy has also joined the Picasso platform. The information on their participation will be included in next year's report. As you can see here, an average volume of roughly or almost 2.5 gigawatts of AFR in both directions are typically available to the platform. The majority of this capacity is, of course, available in Germany, as Germany is by far the largest control block that is currently participating or has been participating in the first year. Only a small fraction of these reserves are typically used. But of course, AFR has the role to support the system in imbalance situations. So there are definitely situations in which all of these reserves are needed. It needs to be considered that the available volume, but also the sharing of reserves within Germany and the exchange of reserves between Austria and Germany are considered. So the Picasso platform itself is basically only managing and coordinating the activation of reserves across different LFC areas. However, it is also a prerequisite for allowing the sharing of reserves within Germany and the exchange of reserves between Germany and Austria that we are already performing. And these sharing and exchange agreements are correctly considered in this performance indicator. Then let's move to the next slide and to the next performance indicator, which reports on the deviation between AOF selection and LFC output. So this is actually referring to a pretty particular characteristic of the AFR platform, because in the Picasso platform we are currently applying the control demand model, which basically means that each TSO still operates its local load frequency controller and activates bits according to its local merit order list, but the central Picasso AOF provides real-time inputs to this local activation mechanisms. This is the scheme that has been presented by my colleague Michael Wiener before, and this scheme inherently leads to some deviations between the volumes and bits selected by the AOF and the bits that are at the end receiving an activation signal by the respective TSO. It was decided by Acer and put to the implementation framework that this so-called control demand model will be applied for the Picasso platform, considering that it is proven to be stable and does not interfere with, I would say, the stability of the local load frequency control loops. However, this model inherently leads to deviations between AOF selection and LFC outputs, and as TSOs, we are carefully monitoring these deviations. So on this slide, you find both the absolute deviation in terms of gigawatt hours per year, as well as the relative deviation in terms of percent of AUF selection, difference between AUF selection and LFC output divided by the total AUF selection. So the blue bars represent the absolute numbers. So you can see that, well, in total, roughly 500 gigawatt hours of, there has been a deviation between AUF selection and LFC output of roughly 500 gigawatt hours. This is not evenly distributed among all participating TSOs. A large share of this is distributed or allocated to the LFC area of Transit BW, but this is related to the typical structure of the merit order list, where a lot of, I would say, bits at the beginning of the merit order list are located in this LFC area. And therefore, we also, I would say, receive, or Transit BW receives a lot of this, of the volatility of the imbalances, which typically contribute to these imbalances, to these deviations between AUF selection and LFC output. When looking at the relative deviation, you can see that there is an average deviation of a bit more than 20%. I think it's roughly 23% between the volumes selected by the AUF and the volumes activated by local controllers. Also here, this number is not evenly distributed among all participating TSOs. The differences are related to different controller settings. So LFC areas with a lot of, I would say, fast flexibility and fast units in the AFR market usually use faster controllers, which lead to a smaller share of deviations between the volumes of the AUF selection and the LFC output or LFC selection. So what is to be considered when evaluating these numbers is that not all of these deviations are related to the so-called non-AUF volumes that have been presented and introduced by Michael Wienay before. Non-AUF volumes only occur if bids are accepted despite having a higher price than the cross-border marginal price. But these deviations can, of course, also relate or refer to the opposite direction. So it can also be the case that bids are centrally selected but are not yet locally activated. In this case, there are no non-AUF volumes, because then the cross-border marginal price will simply be higher than the most expensive bid that receives an activation signal. Of course, these results will be carefully evaluated by TSOs and will also be taken into consideration when evaluating the performance of the so-called control demand model and thinking about potential improvements of this model, which TSOs will do starting from next year, also according to the AFR implementation framework. Then there's a small technical remark. It needs to be considered that the term LFC output is not commonly defined in the EBGL or in the SOGL or in the implementation framework. So different TSOs might use slightly different interpretations of this term, which also could contribute to differences in the relative deviation between the different LFC areas. So in the next performance indicator on which we would like to report, we will focus on the economic surplus of the Picasso platform. So yeah, please go to this slide. Before going to the numbers, I'd like to give a very brief introduction to the calculation of economic surplus. There is a slide, or you will find a slide on this in the slide set, which we already have published online, where the detailed approach for calculating the economic surplus is described. For now, it's only important to remember that to calculate the economic surplus of the Picasso platform, we basically compare the actual social welfare of the balancing market to a hypothetical scenario in which we use exactly the same bits and exactly the same demands, but assume that there is no cross-border exchange of balancing energy. So we basically calculate this economic surplus by comparing the actual operation and the costs incurred in the actual operation to a hypothetical scenario. In this baseline scenario, or this scenario that you use for the comparison, we still assume that there is a common German AFR market because this has existed before the introduction of the Picasso platform, even though it also now uses the Picasso AOF as a central optimizer. Nevertheless, here with these considerations, we basically just consider the economic surplus, which is created by the cross-border exchange of balancing energy from AFR. The economic surplus of the first operational year of the Picasso platform was around 166 million euros. It needs to be considered that this is without the surplus from additional satisfaction of demand. So with these numbers, we assume that also without Picasso, all demands would have satisfied, basically without any additional costs. Of course, the Picasso platform also supports the operation of the system and the operational security by making sure that if a TSO has a demand that exceeds its local AFR band, reserves in other countries are still available, then these demands are still satisfied via the import of AFR. This leads to an additional surplus of the Picasso platform, but it is very challenging to put a price tag to this additional surplus because we simply do not have any information on the costs that would have occurred if the Picasso platform would not have supported the TSO in this case. Depending on the price tag that we put to these additional demands, an additional surplus of 6 to 462 million euros would have been occurred by the Picasso platform. This is a very large range, but it really strongly depends on the price that we assume for this additional satisfaction of demand. So in the simple case, we assume that the price equals basically the price of the day ahead market, while the upper end, so these 462 million euros, are calculated under the assumption that these additional demands have the value of the price limit, so 15,000 euros per megawatt hours. So this is basically just for additional information, but I would say measurable economic surplus of the Picasso platform is shown here on the slide. It's 166.3 million euros. You can also see that there has been some evolution over the first operational year. So by the beginning or in summer and autumn and even winter 2022, the economic surplus was much higher than in 2023, but this is basically related to the evolution of the overall energy prices on the European market. You can also see that the smaller LFC areas, so APG and CHEPS, usually have a higher impact and a higher share of the economic surplus of the Picasso platform, simply because they receive access or get access to a much larger market via the Picasso platform, whereas the impact of the Austrian and Czech markets on the German LSC block is comparably low, considering that these smaller LFC areas simply do not provide a lot of additional reserves in comparison to the length of the German merit order list. Then on the next slide, you will find an additional evaluation on economic surplus. And here we are focusing on the impact of minimizing the bit selection. Here we have to consider one design aspect of the Picasso platform, because the Picasso platform minimizes the amount of selected bits and thus makes sure that bits are only activated if there is an imbalance in the first place. So the Picasso platform does never activate bits simply for economic purposes, but we basically fully rely on previous market timeframes. So they had intraday markets, but including the cross-border markets for RR and MFR to fully, I would say, use all the synergies of markets, and use the Picasso platform only for covering the remaining imbalances. So that means that the Picasso platform never activates any bits without any demands, even if it would be economically feasible. So there's no, I would say, forced counter activation created by the, or activation of positive and negative bits at the same time by the Picasso platform simply for economic purposes. This, of course, has some negative impact on the economic surplus, but at the same time, it ensures that the available AFR, which is necessary to ensure stable system operation, is maximized. So we do not use the AFR band to increase the economic surplus, but we use the AFR band only to cover imbalances and therefore contribute to a stable system operation. This decision has been made in the design phase of the Picasso platform, considering that the AFR, in contrast to other balancing timeframes, is considered as some kind of last resort of the balancing processes before an imbalance results in a frequency deviation. And therefore, it was not considered as justifiable to use the AFR bands simply for economic purposes. The public stakeholders were involved in this decision making. It was part of the public consultation that has been performed for the AFR implementation framework, and also it was reported in several stakeholder workshops previously in the design phase of the Picasso platform. At the same time, we've also committed ourselves to regularly investigate the economic impacts of this design choice of minimizing the bit selection. And this is basically what we do with this performance indicator. So we've analyzed the first operational year of the Picasso platform and compared the operation to a hypothetical scenario in which we would allow this counter activation of bits for economic purposes. And this counter activation basically would have resulted in additional gains of a bit more than 57,000 euros for the first year of the operation, which is of course a very small number in comparison to the 166 million euros of economic surplus that have been created in total. So it is basically only 0.03% of the total economic surplus. And this small potential for additional surplus does, in the future TSOs, currently not justify a change of this design principle. You can also see here on this graph that in many months, a change of this design principle would not have resulted in any additional surplus, but overall, this additional surplus is really very low. So with this being said, I think we can move to the next slide. Let's skip this one because this is a backup slide which basically again provides some further details on the economic surplus calculation, which is available in case there are any questions. But let's now skip to the amounts of netted imbalances in the IGCC and the economic surplus in the IGCC. So here on this slide, you will find the amount of netted imbalances in both directions, so short and long imbalances over the whole period for which the IGCC existed since 2011. And you can clearly see that with the accession of additional TSOs to the IGCC in the last decade, of course, the netted imbalances have significantly increased. When looking on the right-hand side of the slide, you can also see the impact of the Picasso platform or the go live of the Picasso platform. here we need to remember that the Picasso platform also performs netting. But it performs netting in a slightly different way. So it performs netting based on it performs implicit netting based on the maximization of the economic surplus, which of course is considered a superior way of netting than the purely proportional netting, which is performed in the IGCC without knowledge of the bid prices. And for this reason, the netting in the Picasso platform has priority over the netting in the IGCC. And you can clearly see that after the initial accession of Germany, Austria, and the Czech Republic to the IGCC, to Picasso, the netted volumes in the IGCC drop, which is clearly visible in the mid of 2022. This is due to the fact that at this point in time, the Picasso platform took over some of the netting potential between these LFC areas and performed the netting in a more economic way. However, then afterwards, the netting in the IGCC increased again. This is due to the accession of the remaining TSOs to the IGCC and due to the lifting of temporary limitations of the IGCC netting that have been put up in the, or that are typically put up after the initial accession of a TSO due to operational security concerns. So in the beginning of 2023, the remaining TSOs have joined. A lot of these temporary limitations were lifted, and this has, of course, contributed to an increase in the netted volumes. It needs to be considered that when more and more TSOs will join the Picasso platform in 2024, it is assumed that more and more of the netting potential of these TSOs will be used by the Picasso platform and will contribute to the economic savings of Picasso and will then not be visible in the netted imbalances in the IGCC. So it is assumed that in 2024, these netted volumes will decrease. And at the same time, of course, the exchange volumes in Picasso will increase. So on the next slide, you'll find the impact of this netting in terms of euros. So again, here you'll find the economic impact and the economic surplus of the IGCC. There is for sure some correlation to the netted amounts, but you also see this graph clearly impacted by the evolution of the overall energy prices in Europe. So throughout the year 2022, due to the high energy prices, also the economic savings by the IGCC were extraordinarily high. After that, they have slightly decreased, but are still on a quite high level. So usually at the moment, we achieve total savings of between 40 and 60 million euros per month. And the aggregating savings of the IGCC since its original initiation is has passed the mark of 2 billion euros. So that's the information that we provide on the economic surplus. Then let's dive a bit in the usage of cross-zonal capacity on the next slide. So throughout the first operational year, of course, only few balancing borders have been available for the exchange of AFR because only the borders between the participating countries, so Austria, Germany, and the Czech Republic, were available to the Picasso platform. So the available cross-zonal capacity will also significantly increase in the next year. You can see here on this slide that still the available cross-zonal capacity per border is in several cases quite high. So especially in the direction Austria to Germany, we reach quite high numbers of available cross-zonal capacity in many cases. And in most cases, only small fractions of this available capacity are actually used by the Picasso platform. However, here it has to be considered that the cross-zonal capacity at the moment purely depends on the leftover capacity from previous markets. And usually large transmission capacities are available in one direction. So if the overall market direction, for example, is or leads to an exchange and a trading direction from Germany to Austria, then in the direction Austria to Germany, usually very large amounts of cross-zonal capacities are available, but they can only be used by the balancing platforms if there is actually a demand that leads to an exchange of balancing in this direction, which very often is not the case. So this small fraction of cross-zonal capacity that is actually being used for Picasso does not, or is not an indication for an inefficient AFR market. The AFR market or the Picasso platform has all of this cross-zonal capacity available, and in some cases also uses large shares of this cross-zonal capacity, but in many cases there's simply no imbalance and therefore no demand for AFR activation that would basically provide a feasible or that would provide the need to exchange balancing energy in the direction of the available cross-zonal capacity. Furthermore, and on the last slide, we look a bit in the structure of the merit order list. And here, also according to the previous alignments between TSOs, but also with regulators, we specifically take a look at the most expensive submitted bids, which are rarely activated, but if activated, usually lead to very high prices on the AFR market. So this performance indicator here displays the volume-weighted average price of the 5% of the most expensive AFR bids. So it only reflects the structure of the end of the merit order list. And as we've published in other stakeholder workshops before, and also as is visible from the bids available on the transparency platform, or the bid information available on the transparency platform, the merit order lists in the Picasso platform usually have this hockey stick like shape. So we basically have a rather flat merit order list, and then at the end there are some very expensive bids. So here with this performance indicator, we focus on the prices of these very expensive bids at the end. Here it needs to be considered that this volume weighted average price is impacted by some market changes. So especially still within the year 2022, we suspended a bid release process in Germany according to the EBGL, which of course has then or had an impact on the evolution of the price structure of the end of the merit order list within Germany. So this explains why the volume weighted average price of the German bids after an initial drop until September 2022 then rise again. Also, when looking at the numbers from the Czech Republic, we can clearly see an adaptation of BSPs to the new pricing regime, so to marginal pricing. We can also see that, basically since the year 2023, and especially since March 2023, the evolution of bid prices and especially the evolution of the structure of the end of the merit order list is quite stable. So this now brings me to the end of the first operational results and the key performance indicators of the first operational year. It's already said the full results will be published within the next 2 months on the ENTSO-E website. But now we remain further available to answer your questions.
Thank you, Simon. Nino, I think that for Picasso and IGCC, we just finished the presentation. So if there are any questions, please.
Yes, we have a few questions. So we can we can go with that. So the first question is, why are Italian CBMPs almost always different from other countries? Is there no cross-border capacity? Will this change as more countries join, or is it a different issue?
So we have seen before that, well, only the cross-border capacities between the participating TSOs are available to the balancing platforms. And this also means that at the moment, only the quite limited transmission capacity between Austria and Italy is available to connect the Italian AFR market to the rest of the Picasso platform, which explains why usually Italy is not part of the same uncongested area and therefore has a different cross-border marginal price.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from Claire Bonneville. If Acer decides on the evolution of the design around July, is there an impact to foresee on the accession roadmap?
The question is regarding the changes stemming from the pricing methodology, I understand. So in that case, of course, this might affect some TSOs, but as I already pointed out during presenting the roadmaps, these are the individual decisions. So as long as we do not have this information provided for the accession roadmap, we are using the information we have on the table. So this might be the issue, but this is very local impact and local decision. So we as a project, we cannot really answer this.
Okay, thank you. How will the implementation of the elastic demand and or use of LFC output impact the operations? Will TSOs shift one by one to the new design, or will it happen in a big bang after all the connections anticipated in 2024? Question from Claire as well.
So on the CPMP, it clearly needs to be said that this has to be done at the same point in time as the CPMP is centrally determined. So there's this one algorithm determining the CPMP. And if it is decided ultimately by Acer that the CPMP determination will be changed, then this algorithm will be changed. Regarding the usage of elastic demand, this strongly depends on local TSO decisions. So according to the current or to the ongoing consultation, there will not be an obligation for TSOs to use elastic demands. Therefore, it will be a local decision if and when to use this possibility, and there will not be a big bang.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from Pedro Roldao. Have the TSOs reported difficulties when changing from pro rata to small activities? Any changes in the characteristics of FRCE were observed?
We have not prepared an evaluation of this impact for today's call. So I would propose not to go too much into details, but we can, for the answers that will be published, investigate if some information can be provided that might have been provided by local TSOs.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from Casper de Munk. Where can we find the volume data per TSOs related to IGCC exchange?
I think that all the data are published at transparency platform, all the data requested by the implementation framework. I don't know, Simon, if for IGCC you're also, yes, you're also providing the information on the Transnet BW website. So as my colleague said, we can include links later in a written form where you can find this information.
Okay, excellent, thank you. So we have the next question. Could you comment on the availability of AFRR activation volume and price data? For example, the French TSO-RTE announced last week it started the AFRR activation measures every 4 seconds. Where in the platform one can find such data for Picasso member TSOs?
This is also, like, this data are also available at TP now. So yeah, we will provide you with the link, but it's only for the platform. So if colleagues from RT publishing this kind of data, then I think we will have to turn to RTE to ask this question. As RTE is not a member, operational member of the platform. So the platform is publishing this kind of data for those who are the operational members, but not for those who are not yet the operational members. So we will clarify this with colleagues from our team.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from Christophe Almasi. Is it a decision of TSOs which bits from the BSPs they forward to the Picasso platform, or are they obliged to forward all internal bits?
So basically, well, they can filter out bits for example, for congestion management purposes. This is then the information on bits that were declared as unavailable, which will be published and included in the upcoming reports. But as of now, none of the participating TSOs uses such a process to filter out bits. So at a time being, all standard bits submitted to participating TSOs are forwarded to the Picasso platform. Of course, it also needs to be considered that TSOs can use specific bits locally, especially in the case of Italy, where a central dispatch model is applied. An integrated scheduling process is used so that the bits that are forwarded to the platform are actually calculated by the TSO. But as a general remark, all standard bits submitted to TSOs have to be forwarded until they are filtered via a local process. But in this case, this would have to be published.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from Benedict Geyer. We have the question that says, are the activated AFRR volumes per TSO area the output of the AOF, also published somewhere in 4 seconds resolution? I could only find the CBMPs and the exchange volumes on the Transnet BW website.
The activated bits, this is the different legal requirement. And this is also reported published on the ENTSO-E platform, so transparency platform. So we will also add this link for the activated volumes to the answer.
Okay. The next question is from Nikolai Listback. Is the average requested power the activated power activated by the TSOs?
No. The average requested power is the average AFRR demand, which is sent by the TSO to the Picasso platform, but it can be either satisfied via local activation or via AFRR import.
Thank you. The next question is from Claire Bonville. KPI on the deviation between AOF selection and LFC output. Is this the addition of deviation for upward and downward activations?
Very short answer, yes.
Okay, and the next one from the same participants. Are the large differences observed for the relative deviations due to the different dynamics of each AFRR controller?
Again, I can confirm that this is the case.
Thank you. The next question is from Gabor. Which are the volumes used to evaluate imbalance prices, the one of AOF or the ones of LFC? I understand that the real are those of the LFC, but apparently via Picasso algorithm are the AOF volumes influencing the cross-border exchanges within the macro area. Can you please shed some light?
So if I understand this question correctly, it refers to the imbalance settlement, which is not an integral part of the Picasso platform design, and therefore it is also not really a part of today's workshop. It is part of the local procedures for imbalance settlement, which are partially harmonized via the imbalance settlement harmonization method, which values are used here. But I don't feel comfortable in providing a very detailed answer because there really might be local differences in this implementation.
Okay. Thank you. The next question is from someone who already left, but nevertheless, why did you choose to not disclose the data from Terna for the first 4 months of participation and postpone it to January? Transparency should be improved here.
Yeah, here it really needs to be considered that we are reporting on the first operational year. Of course, the transparency data is available, so we regularly publish the exchanged volumes and prices for Terna as for every other TSO. However, the KPI calculation and KPI evaluation also takes some time, especially when looking at the quite complex KPIs on the economic surplus. Therefore, TSOs are simply not ready yet to include Terna in these considerations. But of course, the data for Terna will be published as well. It will be included in next year's report then.
Maybe just to complement Simon, that the period that we selected for the evaluation for the first operational year, it's from the 1st of July 2022 to the 30th of June 2023, and Terna joined Picasso platform on 19th of July 2023. So that's basically the reason.
Okay, thank you, Simon and Anna. The next question is from Christoph. How is the allocation preference for cross-border ATC among the MARI, Picasso, and IGCC processes defined?
So regarding the usage of ATCs by balancing platforms, we basically follow a first-come, first-served approach. That means that that the AOF or the balancing platform that uses the ATC first basically has the initial access, and then the leftover capacities, which can, depending on the direction, either increase or decrease, are available to the subsequent balancing platform. So that means that the leftover capacities from the intraday market are first available to the Tele platform, then to MARI, and then to Picasso and the IGCC. We only deviate from this process if there is a reservation of capacity, so-called cross-zonal capacity allocation for exchange of balancing capacity or cross-border exchange of balancing capacity.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, why is there a decreasing trend in economic surplus of Picasso?
Yeah, this can be linked to the overall evolution of energy prices. So with high overall energy markets, which are also visible on a day ahead, and intraday markets, of course, also then the economic surplus of the Picasso platform is higher. Okay, I think it.
Can we continue?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. The next question is from Ivan. One slide said that the TSOs use standard products to access Picasso. What kind of communication protocol is used? Does communication take place via EH?
So here we clearly have to distinguish between real-time and non-real-time communication. I think it was presented earlier in the MARI part of this process, that's in the future, the physical communication network of ENTSO-E's, so PCN, will be used for both communication streams, which will also be the case for Picasso. At the moment, the real-time communication within Picasso uses dedicated point-to-point communication links between TSOs. So it is not based on electronic highway, but on a, I would say, dedicated communication infrastructure between TSOs. For the non-real-time interchange, different communication protocols are being used. This is more comparable to MARI.
Okay, thank you. We have 15 more minutes left in this session, and we have a few questions still to go through. So I propose we just continue. Can you please explain again the difference between the netting via Picasso, which is superior, and the netting via IGCC, and why does the one of Picasso has priority?
So the Picasso platform performs netting implicitly when aiming to maximize the economic surplus. So that also means it basically nets or performs netting in a way that it prevents the activation of the most expensive bits. The IGCC, on the other hand, does not have any bit information, so it just distributes the netting potential of a TSO proportionally to other TSOs, which usually also does contribute to an economic surplus, but it does not maximize the economic surplus. For this reason, the netting in Picasso can be considered as more efficient, and the priority is referring to the usage of ATCs. So the available cross-zonal capacity is first available to the Picasso platform because the Picasso platform has a higher impact on the economic surplus, and then the leftover transmission capacity, which is not used by Picasso, is then used for the explicit netting in the IGCC, which is basically only necessary because there are still TSOs which are participating in the IGCC but are not yet participating in Picasso.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, how do you take into account the bidding strategies of the BSPs when assessing the economic surplus of the Picasso platform versus having only local market?
Simple answer, not at all, because we simply cannot simulate the bidding behavior of TSOs, of BSPs in a hypothetical scenario using only local markets, but the same market rules. This is a hypothetical scenario, and this, of course, always have to be considered when evaluating the economic surplus. So it is the best number we can calculate, but it's at the end hypothetical number because we are comparing the actual gains to a hypothetical baseline scenario.
Thank you. The next question is from Simon Lerna. Since Terna joined the Picasso platform, there have been many price incidents. These price incidents also led in Italy to unnaturally high imbalance prices. Do you have any comment on that?
So indeed, there are occurrences of very high prices in the Picasso platform, which are affecting all of the LFC areas. In most cases, these high prices are only occurring for very short periods of time. So in most cases, they do not have any impact on the imbalance prices. Of course, there could be some occurrences where we reach the end of the merit order list also for a longer period of time, especially in the current phase when only few TSOs are participating to the Picasso platform, which will eventually change. This is, of course, also one of the reasons why there is currently the work stream of changing both the writing methodology as well as the AFR implementation framework in order to implement countermeasures or mitigation measures.
If I may, I would like to add here as a comment that of course, price incidents are also subject to the pricing rules which are applied. And of course, these pricing rules have been consulted, applied, and confirmed by the relevant regulatory authorities and ACER. So it's less a platform issue, it's also an issue of the pricing rules. But yes, we are working there on things together with regulators to mitigate this, but it's too short-sighted from my side to just declare this as a platform issue. So high prices occur because we have joined the platform. It's more that high prices issues occur because a common target model which has been agreed is applied.
Perfect, thank you for responses. And we have another question on the price incidents as well from Claire. Is there an evolution of the occurrences of price incidents for the last months?
Yeah, there certainly is a visible evolution, but this mainly relates to, I would say, local bidding behavior of BSPs in the different participating LFC areas.
Okay, thank you. The next question from Marcel. How do you expect the economic surplus and cross-border marginal prices to develop with more countries joining the Picasso platform?
So regarding the economic surplus, I think this question is really easy to answer. A larger cooperation and more available transmission capacity will, of course, contribute to an increase in the economic surplus. Regarding the cross-border marginal prices, this question is a bit more challenging. Also here, we are expecting that with more and more TSOs joining the Picasso platform and I would say a longer merit order list, we will reach the end of the common merit order list in less cases, and therefore price incidents are less likely to appear. However, there are several factors contributing to the overall price evolution. So it's very challenging to make a very detailed prediction.
The next question has a few questions in it from Hans Jakob. So I will start with the first part. Up to now, the main data source for Picasso data I found is the Transnet BW website. Will this be the official source for data? Will there be an official source for data in the future, or are there other platforms where data relating to Picasso is published? I guess in addition to Transparency platform, there is. Please go ahead, Simon.
Yeah, I think this question was already answered now by you, but also previously by Anna. All data as of now should be published on the Transparency platform, and this will be the official data source or the main data source.
Excellent, thank you. The second part of that question is it possible to see the supply curves relating to a specific control area for AFRR in near or real time? Picasso has had a very strong effect on Italian imbalance prices. After the rollout in July this year, we observed a situation where the imbalance prices spike violently in the zone north in Italy, reaching prices higher than plus minus 1,000 euros, which is orders of magnitude higher than the imbalance prices ever seen before the rollout. These spikes seem to be correlated with Picasso volumes called upon by Terna. Can you go into detail about this dynamic also in writing if it is required more time?
Yeah, so I think most of the question has just been answered by Ulf Kasper. So here I'd just like to add the additional information that the supply curves or the merit order lists are also available on the Transparency platform in or close to real time. So this information is publicly visible. We will also include a link in the Q&A, and I think the detailed answer in writing, also considering or also including the response just provided by Ulf Kasper, will be provided in the Q&A as well.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from Calvin. How will the activation of AFRR bids work if there is no direct balancing border between the Picasso countries? For example, Transelectrica joining next. As IGCC and Picasso are optimized jointly, can all IGCC member countries can be considered transfer countries for Picasso exchange?
No, so IGCC and Picasso share the IT platform, but they do not share the transmission capacities. That means that the transmission capacities by a pure IGCC member that is not participating in Picasso are by default not available to Picasso members. There is the possibility for TSOs to have agreements on so-called ATC sharing, in which also transmission capacity of non-participating TSOs could be made available to the Picasso platform. However, this is not the default setup, but has to be decided by the TSOs on a case-to-case basis. So it can very well be the case that a TSO joins the Picasso platform without a common balancing border to Picasso, and then at least temporarily, and this that there will not be the possibility to exchange any AFR, but this will only be provided once that a balancing border with available ATC has been included.
If I may, I would like to add here also, as our colleagues from RTE are not with us today, that these concepts of ATC sharing, which would make it possible to bridge such countries, so to say, are subject to national regulatory approval. So it's actually a national process where the national regulation authority has to decide on and agree on that this can be applied. But as balancing platforms, we have this on our list, as already shown by Vaclav in the long-term planning.
Okay, thank you. The next question: what is the dedicated transparency platform that can be used to access Picasso's clearing prices, especially clearing prices of Italian bidding zones?
Again, I think we have answered this question before. We will put a link in the Q&A.
When will the AFRR prices, CBMP, be published on the ENTSO-E platform? Similar question again.
They should be published by now. So indeed, on Picasso side, we used an intermediate solution with publishing prices on the TransPW website for quite a long time. But as of now, all the prices are also published on the ENTSO-E platform.
Okay, thank you. The next question is concerning high bid prices. What is your interpretation of the large differences in bid price levels between German bids and those from other zones, both positive and negative? Did the change in the bid release clause had a large impact on these levels?
So again, I think this is really related to the local evolution of markets, not directly related to Picasso, but to the overall, pricing regimes and market structures of the individual LFC areas. And indeed, of course, there was some impact of the changes in the German market related to the end of the merit order list, not so much on the actual cross-border marginal prices. Ulf, you have just unmuted yourself. Do you want to add something here?
I completely agree with what you have said. I'm a bit. I think what we can add, and this is somewhat natural. We are operating the platforms, but we are not placing the bids. So the question, why does a BSP place a bid the way he does, is naturally more a question to the BSP maybe than to the TSO. I completely agree. There are differences in the generation structure. There may also be different approaches of the BSPs, how they calculate their prices. But that's more a BSP question than a TSO question, because we're operating a platform. We're not placing the bids.
Thank you very much, and we are perfectly on time. For the last 2 minutes, we have one final question. In the future, all TSOs connected to IGCC platform will be also connected to the Picasso platform. Will the IGCC be redundant and thus dismissed?
So indeed, in the case that all IGCC participants are connected to Picasso, then the IGCC would not longer be necessary and would basically cease to exist, because no netting potential would remain for the IGCC to be used. At the moment, it is not foreseeable that this will be the case in the near future, as it is much less complicated for TSOs, both on a technical level, but also from a market and regulatory perspective to join the IGCC corporation. Therefore, we have to expect that the IGCC will be with us for at least the next couple of years.
Thank you very much, Simon. Thank you, Anna and Ulf, for replying to the questions and for your presentations. Of course, we are perfectly on time now to break for a coffee break until 11:45. So please come back at 11:45, or you can stay online and just mute yourself, and then we continue with Tara after that. Thank you very much. Okay, welcome back, everyone. We are about to start our next session and the last one before the conclusions. So I will welcome back Václav, who is the Terra Steering Committee Chair, and we will be sharing the Terra slides in a moment. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks everyone for participating at today's workshop one more time. And now we will move to the regional project, TERRA, the Trans-European Replacement Reserve Exchange project. And here we have the presentation that is available on ENTSO-E web pages dedicated to TERRA project for those who are interested in. This is the slide deck dedicated for today's workshop. I believe we can move on for the agenda part. So as in previous cases, we will start with a short introduction. Then we will continue with the last main project milestones and development of Libra platform, followed by upcoming major changes. And in the end, we have a time for questions and answers for roughly about 15 minutes. Okay, so that's that. I believe we can move on. In the introduction, so this is something I already introduced. This is the process of balancing. I will not repeat much. I will just say that RR is the last. It's a replacement reserve process to replace previously used processes, particularly MFRR or AFRR if needed, and that's the case for some TSOs only. Therefore, it's a regional cooperation or regional project. Yeah, on that, I believe nothing much can be said. Yeah, so I guess we can move on to speed up a little. Yeah, so about the members of the TERRA project, there are so-called regions, Region 1 and Region 2. In Region 1, there's a France represented by RTE, Italy by Terna, Portugal by REN, Spain by RE, and Switzerland by Swissgrid. In Region 2, there's a Czech Republic and represented by CHIPS, and Poland by PSE. That is not yet connected. However, the other ones are connected and in operation or in use of TERRA platform. There is also an observer from Hungary, Mavir, representative by Mavir company, and other project members, Amprion and Norway, and Amprion from Germany, and then Statnett from Norway and Svenska Kraftnät from Sweden. This is about the members of the project who constitute or establish it and who use the TERRA platform. I believe we can get to the next slide, please. So here is outlined who access the platform and at what time or what day, and also when Great Britain left the project, or that the Great Britain left the project as a consequences of Brexit. Yeah, we can get to next one, please. This is the RR process. It's similar to Mario or Picasso. TSO, in the first step, TSOs gather or receive the bids from BSPs from their local balancing area or bidding zone. Then they put the valid RR bids into Libra platform. Also, TSOs in the third step send their needs and available transmission capacities after intraday values to the platform. Platform runs the algorithm with offers and needs, or demands, if you like. Afterwards, it communicates the accepted offers and satisfied needs and marginal prices to the TSOs. Also, it calculates the bilateral exchange between balancing areas and TSO settlement in 6 steps. And last one is the residual ATC and net positions are communicated to TSOs for further use in balancing process. Yeah, so this is shortly the introduction, and in a nutshell, it's again TSO model of activation of balancing bits in our process in this case. Then I think this is it for the introductory part, and we can get to the last main project milestone and developments of Libra platform that are reflected on the next slide in a graphical interpretation of overview of ongoing and future tasks. Till the end of this year, the project is working on MSR on market supervision module reports generation that shall be later on published in accordance with our implementation framework. Also, towards the end of the year, PSC aimed to connect or start connecting to the Terra platform as it is now. Then when it comes to design and implementation, currently Terra project goes through the process of a number of balancing clearings and defining whether and how to change the number of clearings, and later on implement the future RR process accordingly to change from 24 to 96 gates if decided. In the course of this year, it was the task of the Terra project to test interoperability with capacity management IT solution version 1, and then next year it is aiming to test and integrate the CMM version 2. From the legal point of view, there has been official approval of the amended replacement reserve implementation framework approval from the NRAs, the second amendment, and the last NRA approved it on the 8th of September. Also, throughout the year, the project is renewing the contract with relevant suppliers. It is foreseen that as a consequence of possible changes of the number of clearings, there'll be a need to propose the amendment of RR implementation framework, so-called third amendment, and alongside with that, there will be also need to change the contractual agreement among the participating TSOs, so-called the second amendment, so it reflects the reality. So that's about the overview of ongoing and future task. I believe we can then get to the economic surplus. Yeah, since January 2023. It's needed to be said that the Terra economic surplus is significant and important, with an average upper than 24 million euros per month, as you can see from the attached chart. The highest one is in May. As of now, I can tell you the reason why. That will be up to my operational colleagues. There might be simply more needs to activate the RR product. That being said, we can get to the next slide where the key figures of volumes and accepted bits are shown. Left upper corner, you can see volume of offered bits in megawatts, up and down, or positive or negative if you like. Below that is volume of submitted needs, again in megawatts. You can see the values are, I would say, significant. On the right side, you see the volume of accepted bits, followed in the right bottom corner by the figure showing volume of satisfied needs. the needs that are defined by TSOs. I believe the numbers speaks for themselves and doesn't need further comments. Yeah, so then I would like to move to the next slide where one can see, or audience can see the price evolution of the prices of average daily prices of satisfied needs by TSOs from RE, Spain, Portugal, France, Switzerland, and Italy. You can see the average daily prices are evolving. Yeah, that's that. And evolving or moving, and are not, or they are volatile, but well, it depends on the sense or the taste of each, whether it's a great volatility or acceptable volatility of the prices. Yeah. I believe, again, the figure speaks it for itself, and if you want to check it more, you can either do it through the transparency platform or through the slides provided before. Now we are getting to the third topic, which is upcoming major changes in the RR platform, RR project, Terra project. So we can please get to the slide number 14. And as they already mentioned, they increased the number of clearings, and that's the reminder about the RR process. First from 3 slides, so those 3 needs to be kind of read together or bear in mind together. So on the timeline in the upper part of the slide, you can see the timeline of the RR process. When there's a pre-tendering phase, tendering phase, clearing phase. Afterwards, to the clearing, there is a results communication and verification phase, activation phase, and delivery phase. So this is I'll put it in the time perspective, what has been said in the introductory part. Yeah, I do not see the need to go into details. This is publicly available and known for a while. I hope we can then go to the next one, where it brings us to the reminder about the context in the Article 11.5 of Replacement Reserve Implementation Framework. It stated that the deadline for assessment, the deadline will be the date required by EBGL for using the European Platform for Exchange of MFR, that being the July 24, and then we shall evaluate the increase. We as a TSO shall evaluate the increase of number of daily gates. Yeah, so the consequences of legal framework are such that the number of RR gates can only be increased once all RR TSOs have reduced the cross-border scheduling step to 15 minutes. The deadline is set July, specifically July 24th of July 2024. That's the deadline for implementing the MFR platform. The increase of number of gates in RR process has to be done before the increase of number of gates in cross-zone intraday. The overview of the current planning and deadlines show that a careful alignment is necessary. Taking into account all restriction and preliminary assessment, the change of RR process cannot take place before Q4 of next year or Q1 the year after 2025 to be set. Yeah, then we can perhaps get to third slide of those 3 read together on the slide number 16. Yeah. The latest update on the increase of the number of clearings is such that Terra TSOs open a public survey to get their position from all market participants from the 29th of May till the 7th of July 2023. And the results of this public survey led to the conclusions that option 3 is not acceptable, although it minimized the impact on liquidity. Option 1, although being the simplest for TSOs, it's not desirable because of the interaction of the conditional links. and that was not anticipated by the market parties. It can be concluded that option 2, which is favored by majority of the stakeholders and TSOs, seems therefore to be the best compromise of all the options. However, the in-depth impact assessment will provide visibility of the feasible or possible implementation planning of the option at the platform and local level. Since the results are available, TSOs are working jointly with RR or Terra NRAs to agree on the way forward for the future of the RR process. More communication will be communicated later to the market participants. Yeah, that's about that. Yeah, improvement in reporting. Since the second amendment of our implementation framework has been officially approved by NRAs, TSOs are working, as said before, on the improvement of the reporting about the functioning of our market to fulfill new requirement included in the regulation. What is good to announce to the participants of today's workshop is that the new indicators will be provided through the monthly market supervision module reports, and they will be published on ENTSO-E website and in the annual report as well. Our indicators are listed in Article 15 of RRIF. That's also available on ENTSO-E website. And those indicators are mainly aimed to provide information about bids submitted in the platform, requests for assistance made by TSOs, fully divisible bids, divisible and block bids, the use of elastic needs by TSOs, the stage of the tolerance band per TSO, usage of the system constraints per TSOs, prices, daily averages, price range, and etc. Cross-zone capacities and congestion, counter activations, URBs, that stands for unforeseeably rejected bids, and volumes and comparison to the activated volumes, and indivisible bids per price interval. So those are the KPIs, or the KPIs or indicators that will be monitored and provided to market parties through the ENTSO-E website and monthly/yearly reports. I hope we are getting basically till the end of the presentation related to a Terra project, and we are getting to questions and answers.
On the question and answers, we have not received any for this part of the presentation. So I will now give an opportunity for all the participants to please either raise your hand or submit a question. If not, then we could also come back to the questions that we haven't answered yet from the Mari part in the morning. So maybe we can do that, and in the meantime, if you have additional questions, you could submit them still. Would that be fine for you, Václav?
Yeah. If there are no RR questions, I believe we can get to the Mari or MFR questions. Okay. And yeah, I see Ulf is here. Great.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So coming back to the morning question on Mari, question from Nikolai. When the Nordic countries are integrated in Mari, will there be a change to the 10:1 ratio between AFRR and MFRR? Historically, the Nordics are utilizing MFRR more than Central Europe.
Yeah, most likely yes. As I said, this is more a value of thumb for us to give give a reasoning if our social welfare calculation is rather plausible. At the moment it is, but yes, we assume if TSOs who have more focus on MFR join the corporation, this will change. Yes.
Thank you. Then a follow-up question from Christoph. How do you define the available cross-border capacity between distant TSOs as a result of chain of ATCs?
Yeah, but this is the ATC is considered per border, so it is not that we make a calculation how much of the cross-zonal capacity from Amprion is available to Czechia by calculating the different borders, but it's really an assumption per border, and it's considered an optimization algorithm. So that's actually also the correct consideration for the algorithm. I hope that helps.
Thank you. Then we have another question from Michal from Czech Republic. Is there any plan to provide 4-second data on transparency platform or elsewhere to allow BSPs to use small for improving their predictions? Sometimes the 15 minutes averages are not sufficient.
Is this referring to AFR or MFR?
It's MFR,
okay.
Morning still, yeah, morning Maria session.
Okay, but honestly, we don't have 4 seconds values for MFR because MFR is activated per quarter hour. Maybe, but I'm trying to interpret the question now. It's referring to have better insights on direct activations, but I think that we also already now follow the requirements of the implementation framework and the guideline, of course. So we might need some more insights on the question to give a better answer. Sorry for that.
Okay, so if you are still in the call with us, Michal Hatle, please raise your hand and provide clarification to that. But I also see indication that he has left using on the screen, so perhaps not then. Is the next question we have from Mulugeta, is there any technology-specific guidelines on the requirements to participate in the MFR market, for example, batteries?
There are no technology-specific requirements and specific guidelines. So if you need specific advice there, we recommend it to contact the local TSO because it's usually pre-qualification issue then and not a platform issue. So we are also open for batteries, of course. So basically for all technology.
No technology restriction, only the qualification and to meet the standard product.
Thank you. Next question is from Jeppe. Will you be able to share the impact that Mari would have had in time on the prices if all the members joining Mari next year had been participating in Mari back in time? For example, share a file containing the prices as they would have been under Mari for the last 4 years.
No, I think such back calculation comes along with so many ifs and whens, especially regarding the fact that the European target model foresees marginal pricing, which is not commonly applied for, or has not commonly been applied for balancing energy markets before introducing the European target model. This makes it difficult to do some back calculation because we would have to assume that it would have been the same bits even in a pay-as-bid pricing scheme as now for marginal pricing, which would most likely not be the case. So sorry, we cannot really provide a looking back which leads to a conclusive result by nature. Sorry.
Thank you. Last 2 remaining questions on Mari. The first one, could you please give a brief explanation, full pronunciation of the following abbreviations: XB capacity, which is cross-border, ATC, ENC, and CSP.
Okay, so let's go one by one. So maybe
ATC, yeah.
Available transfer capacity, the remaining cross-zonal capacity.
ENC. Energy community countries, yeah. Yes. CSP.
Common service provider. Okay,
excellent. Thank you for synchronized response. And the final question we have from Dario, who has left as well already, but still, have you performed any analysis on how the frequency and balance occurrences change when a smaller balancing area, such as Austria, joins a larger European common balancing market? Rise in frequency and balances have been noticed already when the Danish or Belgian system joined the European common FCR system.
We have this to some extent, but maybe not to the degree of detail the colleague who asked the question is interested in this. We have you see some differences on how often activations have happened. You have seen this on the slides when we were with activations over the months. But most likely this is more something for either this is more Mari specific, a longer period in time, so 3 quarters, with Austria only being with us for a bit less than 3 months is not enough there. Or second approach, it could be something which is more interesting for all the balancing platforms, because I assume it's more likely to see some changes there if you are with a more continuous activation of FRR. So it's maybe more something interesting for a future analysis in Picasso than in Mari. My proposal would be to keep this on the list of potential analysis for next year, because for Mari then the period in time is longer, which we can consider. And maybe also for the Picasso colleagues, they have then some additional sessions, which might also make the databases a bit larger.
Okay, thank you. And we have now a couple of fresh questions that came in just now after we returned to the old ones. So the first one, and I would like to also in parallel, before we start replying to them, issue the last call also for questions. Please, everyone, if you have any left, you're welcome to submit them. So one of the questions that just came in was from Mulgeta, and she asks, did I miss the FCR part in this workshop? I think I saw it mentioned in the agenda.
It was just for the context. FCR is not subject of a balancing workshop. The frequency component matters are not.
So so frequent FCR cooperation at the moment is a voluntary cooperation and a balancing capacity cooperation. However, this workshop focuses on the balancing energy cooperations.
Okay,
and I hope it was not on the agenda, but I'm not sure.
And you are welcome also to visit ENTSO-E web page for FCR, and there is a contact detail there which you can contact and ask if they have any other information that you would be interested in. The next question is from Jiri. Michal's question was related to 4-second data of AFRR. Okay, so we did have a question above, and that was about AFRR. So I think it was about releasing the 4-second data.
Yeah, I think then we made the correct link. Okay, that's fine.
Okay, then we have a question from Nicolo. Are BSPs bidding to the Terra platform remunerated for the satisfied need, for the energy activated, or for both?
Those BSPs that are activated are remunerated for the provided energy, to my knowledge, and then also depends kind of on the local conditions, terms and conditions. But in general, what is provided shall be paid or remunerated.
Okay, thank you. The next question we have is from Paul, who asks, what is the best way to contact ENTSO-E? So I can take that question. So each balancing platform has a web page, and there is a contact detail there. So if it's about contact for a specific balancing platform, and then if you have generic question, we do have email called info@entso-e.eu. So if you could send your email there, it will be later on shared with the appropriate section in the organization that could deal with that. The next question is from Panagis. Why Czech TSO activates more negative and German TSO more positive MFR?
The status of the grid.
Yeah, I think there is no generic answer for that. That there might be some tendencies that the German grid currently has a tendency of being more undersupplied, and the Czech grid the tendency of being more oversupplied. But please do not overinterpret this, because this also can change between the years. So it's really it's a snapshot. If we see it also next year, then we might try to interpret again. But it's really don't overinterpret this, please.
Thank you. And the final question we have so far is, what is the difference between an A and an empty field within the data provided on the transparency platform regarding marginal prices?
Good question. I don't know, but we will find out and follow up. So maybe that's for the Q&A section. I actually don't know if there is a difference, but we will ask the transparency experts.
If you can repeat, Nino.
Yeah, the question is, what is the difference between an A, not applicable, right, and an empty field within the data provided on the transparency platform regarding marginal prices?
But it's for Picasso or for Mari?
It doesn't specify. So Paul, the person who
this is okay. So
Mari.
Maybe we can ask
Mari,
for Mari. Okay. Then let's ask. Really, we will come back to this answer, because it's a bit different for each platform, and yeah, let's coordinate maybe with DB colleagues.
Excellent. Thank you. That was the last question that we've received for today. Thank you very much to all the presenters for today's presentations. They were very, very detailed and very informative, I'm sure, for all the participants. Thank you for all the participants for being so active in the meeting today with all the questions. It definitely enhanced the webinar. As a reminder, we did record it and we will post it along with the question and answers document. So with that, I would like to ask Václav, Ulf, Anna, if you have any concluding remarks before we close for today. Thank you.
Thank you for participation. Yeah.
Thanks for the
thank you for
Same from our side. Thank you for the participation.
Thank you very much. With that, we conclude the webinar for today, and we wish you a very pleasant afternoon. And until next year, I guess. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Have a great day.